She's holding a spider. It's like we're holding hands. This one is send to the graveyard cards. That's a long list. Yeah, it is pretty long. Let's go through this quickly. Over here, we have a tier list. Wait. Sorry, I have to do this better for YouTube. Okay, guys, today on stream, we are going to go over a tier list of cards which have effects that activate when they're sent to the graveyard. It can be from the deck to the graveyard, from your hand to the graveyard, but not the field to the graveyard. Those ones don't count. Otherwise, there'd be like a million other things on here. Basically, cards when sent from the deck to the graveyard activate. They don't have to be specifically from the deck to the graveyard, just not from the field. So first up, we have Absolute King Backjack. I can't read this. So we have Backjack over here. So Backjack has the effect where if it's sent to the graveyard, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and then rearrange them in any order you want. Then it has a graveyard effect that can be used on either player's turn, where you can send the top card of your deck to the graveyard, and if it's a trap card, no, you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a trap card, a normal trap card, you get to set it and it's able to be activated that turn, and if it's not, then it's just sent to the graveyard. So basically with this card, if you're not using it in order to set normal trap cards, you can use it in order to strategically rearrange the top card of your deck and then send it to the graveyard. So it is an additional way to trigger more cards. It is a good way to get more sent to the graveyard effects in the graveyard. So I think that's pretty good. I'm gonna put it in B tier. Are we gonna evaluate only the sent to the graveyard effect of the whole card? I am not going to put parameters on this.
Because I don't know.
Next card, we have Absolouter Dragon. I don't know what this card's graveyard effect is. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 rocket monster from your deck to your hand. You can release effect once per turn. Oh, is this card using Dragon Link? It seems like it would be. If you control a rocket monster, spell summon this card from your hand. You can only spell summon once per turn. Holy, that's really good. They ever played a lot? Yeah, both those effects sound very good. We'll put it in B tier because Dragon Link. I mean F Dragon Link. Alien Stealth Buster. You can banish this card from your graveyard, target 1 monster with 8 counters, and destroy it. It's a way for alien cards to destroy cards that have 8 counters on them. It also places 8 counters. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 face-up monster in the field, place 2 8 counters on it. Additionally, it has a graveyard effect to banish itself from the graveyard to destroy a monster with 8 counters on it. So basically, this card is destroy 1 card in the field. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard. Oh, never mind. It has to be on a separate turn. Thanks for the sub sockets. I think this one is C tier. It doesn't seem that great. Next up, we have Aeromage Laurel. If your life points are higher than your opponent, spell summon this card from your hand. If you gain life points, target a non-tuner plant monster in your graveyard. On the field, it is treated as a tuner this turn. If this card is sent to the graveyard, gain 500 life points. Okay, so basically, its graveyard effect is gain 500 life points, which is pretty mediocre. F tier. Next up, we have Bringer. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 water monster you control. It gains 1000 attack until the end of this turn. Wow. Your voice sounds tired. My voice is tired. F tier. The Cursed Bamboo Sword. So this card has the effect where if it's sent to the graveyard, you get to add any Bamboo Sword card from your deck to your hand except another copy of itself. This is pretty good. I'm putting this in A tier. This is very good in FTK decks. So what's it used for? Oh, it has good targets. It can search out either Golden Bamboo Sword or just normal Bamboo Sword so that you can draw a whole bunch of cards. This is like one of the best cards in FTK decks. We have Cyber Dragon Hearse. If this card is sent to the graveyard, add another Cyber Dragon card from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Holy shit. That's a pretty good graveyard effect. We'll put it in B tier. I'm gonna put archetype specific searchers that are not generic in B tier. I'm making rules as we go because I want to justify Bamboo Sword being higher. Next up, we have Dawn Knight. If this card is sent to the graveyard, send 1 light monster from your deck to the graveyard. That's pretty good. B tier? Yeah, we can put this one in B tier. This card used to be searched out through Union Hanger.
I think.
Was it Union Hanger? No, I don't think it was Union Hanger. What is it called? Union Carrier. It would target itself with this card, and then it would be sent to the graveyard, and then it would allow them to like send one of the other cards on this list to the graveyard to trigger its effect, or to get like Ben 10 in the grave. Dawn is field to the grave though. Is it? Oh, it has 2 graveyard effects. That's why it's on here. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, send a light monster from deck to the graveyard. If this card is sent from the deck to the graveyard, target 1 light monster in your graveyard. Place that target on top of your deck. Neat. We have Magnet Warrior. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon Valkyrion the Magnet Warrior from your hand or deck, ignoring its summoning conditions by banishing 3 level 4 lower Magnet Warrior monsters with different names from your graveyard. Whoa, Valkyrion. Let's put this one in, I guess C tier is fine. It's very archetype specific. It is pretty decent archetype. The archetype's just not very good. Next up, we have Desperado Barrel Dragon. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a level 7 or lower monster that has a coin toss effect from your deck to your hand. Whoa, what are good coin toss effects you can search with this? I'm trying to think. It basically searches out like coin toss cards from your deck as long as they're level 7 or lower. What is the best target to search with this? Blowback Dragon, Time Wizard, Misjudge. There's not really good targets for it. This is a good card because it searches a lot of things. It's just there's not really a good target for it. I'm gonna just put it in C tier. Diabloco Dragon Fiend Commander. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target 1 fiend monster in your graveyard except this card and add it to your hand. Oh, that's amazing. However, this card has another effect where if a fiend monster other than itself is sent from your field or is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand or graveyard, but it's banished when it leaves the field. Being able to add back another fiend from your deck from your graveyard to your hand is really good. I'm gonna put this one in B tier. This is a great card. And then while it's in the graveyard, it can come back too. I would just know that Weathering Soldier isn't on here, but it could probably be because it's C tier. What the hell is Weathering Soldier? Next up, we have, wait, am I blind or do not see the Ishizus? Yeah, I forgot to include the Ishizus. Dotscaper. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon it. This is a once per duel effect. Whoa. A tier, special summon. It also has another ability where if this card is banished, you can special summon it. Both of its effects have a once per duel effect. However, it does share a hard once per turn between both of the effects, so you can't use them both on the same turn. And this card can be normal summoned from your hand. Dotscaper can actually set up some really nice combos because it's Cyber's type. What is this card? Idea the Heavenly Squire. If this card is sent to the graveyard, target 1 of your banished monarch spells or traps and add that card to your hand. Oh, yeah, this is really good because one of their best Monarch spell cards, which doesn't have a hard once per turn on any of its effects, banishes itself in order to use the effect. So this card is just pure advantage in Monarchs. This is very good. B tier. Shadow Mist. If this card is sent to the graveyard, add any hero monster from your deck to your hand. This is very good in hero decks. B tier. Eva. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish up to 2 other light fairy monsters from your field and or graveyard. Add the same number of level 2 or lower light fairy monsters with different names from your deck to your hand, except Eva. You can only use this effect once per turn. This is an S tier card. It searches 2 cards when sent to the graveyard. This is nuts. It was even banned for a hot second. I don't even know if this card is still banned or not, but it was very good. Next up, we have Farfa Malebranche of the Burning Abyss. You do! If sent to the graveyard, banish 1 target on the field until the end phase. If you send this with Beatrice, it basically turns her effect into a quick effect banish. It's like one of the worst ways to use Beatrice. We'll put Farfa in F tier. Garbage card. Oh my god! Felis, the Lightsworn Archer, cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned by a card effect. If this card is sent from your deck to the graveyard by a monster effect, special summon it. You can tribute this card, then target 1 monster your opponent controls, destroy that target, and send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. It does special summon a level 4 tuner if it's sent from the deck to the graveyard. That's pretty good. Tuners are good. I'm gonna put this one in B tier. I don't know about A tier because you can't normal summon it. If you could normal summon, I think it'd be a little bit better. Yeah, because it's a brick. It's literally just a dead card in your hand. We have Fiendish Rhino Warrior. I didn't know this one had a graveyard effect. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can send 1 fiend monster from your deck to the graveyard. Well, that's pretty good. I'm gonna put this in B tier. I'm sure this was very good in Malebranche decks. Burning Abyss. Next up, we have Flip Frozen. Oh, this one's hilarious. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can change all attack position monsters your opponent controls to defense position. It technically like blinks out a battle phase if it's sent to the graveyard, and it is a card which is sent to the graveyard no matter how. So if you like discard this from your hand during the battle phase, it turns all your opponent's monsters to defense position. Or if it's sent from the deck to the graveyard through a mill, it turns them all to defense position. Or if it's just sent from the field to the graveyard, it sends them all to defense position. I think this is technically still F tier. That's just not a very good effect. But it is funny. Next up, we have Flower Dino. No, it's not Book of Moon. It changes them to defense position, not face down defense position. They're still face up. What's this one's graveyard effect? Cannot be normal summoner set, must be special summoned by its own effect. You can only use each of the following effects of Flower Dino once per turn. If you activate a trap card or effect, or your opponent activates a spell card or effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard, target 3 banished spells / traps, place them on the bottom of your appropriate decks in any order, then draw 1 card. So it allows you to reuse banished spell traps. This seems useful in Labyrinth decks to get back Big Welcome Labyrinth. There's also a ton of spell traps that banish for cost from the graveyard. Like pretty much all modern spell traps have some kind of like graveyard effect where they banish them as a cost. And Flower Dino looks like you get them back and draw a card, and also it special summons itself from the hand. Helpful if you mess up IP Primacy with Shut the fuck up. I'm gonna put this one in C tier. Next up, we have Gem Knight Lazuli. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target 1 normal monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. A normal monster back to your hand? Lame. Let's put this in F tier. Normal monsters suck. We have Hellfire Sleeping Beauty Ghost Sleeper. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Ghost Fusion from your deck to your hand. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard and discard 1 card, then target 1 of your banished level 4 or higher zombie monsters, add it to your hand. You can only effect once per turn. Add a Ghost Fusion card from your deck to your hand. Ghost Fusion sucks, but you can get back 1 of your banished zombies, which includes Mezuki, and you can basically just ditch Ghost Fusion as the cost. But Ghost Fusion's garbage, and it has to be on a subsequent turn. Except this, I'm gonna put this card in F tier. Having to do both of the effects on 2 different turns really hampers the usability of the card. We have Glow Up Boom. If this card is sent to the graveyard, banish this card from your graveyard, add 1 level 5 or higher zombie monsters from your deck to your hand. Or if Zombie World, special summon it instead. What's funny about Glow Up Bloom is it has a whole bunch of like ruling confusions, because its trigger is if this card is sent to the graveyard, and then its cost is to banish itself from the graveyard. So sometimes the ruling confusions just come from people who don't understand how colons and semicolons work. Because it has the trigger, it's just after the trigger is met, it immediately pays the cost, which is to banish itself, which removes it from the graveyard. Anyways, Glow Up Bloom is pretty good. We're gonna put it in C tier because it's literally only good to get out Veiled Rotch in like zombie decks. Goki Pole. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add exactly a level 4 insect monster from your deck to your hand. What's interesting about Goki Pole is that it only adds level 4 insects, not level 4 or lower, which is really annoying. Also, if the card you added was a normal monster, you can special summon it. Then you can destroy 1 monster in the field who has more attack than the monster you added. Goki Pole is actually a very good card, specifically because it has a great target. Do you guys know what that target is? There is a very generic target this card can search out that is used in decks that love to send a bunch of cards to the graveyard. It can search out Mothman. Because it has Mothman as a target, it's actually like a generically useful card in decks that want to send cards to the graveyard. It's very good specifically because it can search out Mothman. If it didn't have Mothman as a target, it'd be garbage and like only usable in its very specific deck. But because it can search out Mothman, it's actually very good in these kinds of decks. We have Gozuki. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish it from your graveyard and then special summon a zombie monster from your hand. Whoa. It also has another effect where during your main phase, you can send any zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard. Gozuki is actually pretty decent, but special summoning from your hand is not. C tier. Hell Shaddoll Hollow. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can send cards from the top of your graveyard to the graveyard. No, wait. You can send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard, equal to the number of different original attributes amongst the monsters on the field. So if there's 6 different attributes on the field, you can send 6 cards on top of your deck to the graveyard. Chances are you'll be lucky to mill 2 extra cards. So basically, yeah, you're almost guaranteed to mill at least 1 extra card. The OCG still plays this in tier limits. Why? If I were to guess, I would think the reason this is played in tier limits is specifically because out of all of the Shaddoll cards, this is the only one that mills more when it's sent to the graveyard, and also technically has Shaddoll in its name. The other ones don't mill any extra like generic cards. And, you know, honestly, milling extra generic cards is pretty decent. I'm gonna put this in C tier. Wait, why are you upside down?
Because I'm a spider.
100 Dragon. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one face-up monster you control that was special summoned from the extra deck. The first time that face-up monster would be destroyed by battle or card effects, it is not destroyed. You can only use effect once per turn. So it basically gives a lingering effect to one of your extra deck monsters, which makes it so it can't be destroyed once. It's almost like it gives it a counter because there is no duration on this. This is such a weird lingering effect. The effect is not that good. It's like that one runic card. There's a runic card that does this. This isn't like a forever effect though. It's not till the end of the turn. Usually these effects only last till the end of the turn. For some reason, this effect is last forever. Why does he look like he's about to make an argumentative YouTube video? Either way, it's still F tier. Next up, we have Jinzo Returner. If this card's sent to the graveyard, special summon a Jinzo from the graveyard, but destroy it during your end phase. Kidmodo Dragon. If this card is sent to the graveyard, special summon a dragon type monster from your hand. You cannot special summon monsters except dragon type monsters, nor conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this effect. God, this is so garbage. The ability to special summon a dragon from your hand is not worth all those downsides. He's so goofy. No, he's F tier. Laundry Trap. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target one card in your graveyard that was sent there this turn and add it to your hand, but it cannot be used until the turn after this card resolves. No, until the end of the turn after the next turn. You're basically locked out of using the card for 2 turns. But it does allow you to add any card that was sent to the graveyard this turn to your hand. You just can't use it for 2 turns. The problem is that that's a very long time to wait. But the effect is technically very good. It also has an on-field effect where every time a monster is summoned, you mill the top card of your deck. So it's like one of those, if it was just until the end of the turn, it'd be so much better, but it's the end of the next turn, which just kind of makes it almost unplayable, but I still want to put it in C tier anyway, because it's still pretty good. Might as well read, can't activate until the next game. Yeah, pretty much. Next one, Limiter Overload. If this card's sent to the graveyard, special summon Speed Warrior from your hand, deck, or graveyard. It's a guaranteed level 2 monster on the board. S tier, let's go. Now this is F tier. Nobody plays that garbage card. It's a terrible level 2 monster, and you'd have to basically play a Garnet for this card. Next up, we have Crimson Fox. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target one face-up monster opponent controls and change his attack to 0 until the end of this turn. When a card effect targets a Lunalight monster you control, a quick effect, banish this card from your graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, each player gains 1,000 life points. Oh, it has a negate too. Yeah, this card was actually restricted in Duel Links for a hot second, I believe, because you could send it off of Neos Fusion and then just like win by lowering one of your opponent's monsters' attack to 0. Yeah, the negate's not that bad either. How good is this in Lunalights? I don't really know Lunalights that well. It's still on the Limit 2 list? Damn. Last time I saw that as a problem was like years ago. Well, I'll put it in C tier. I only know what Tiger does. I don't really know the Tiger combos that well. Next up, we have Magician's Restage. If this card is sent to the graveyard, add a Magician continuous spell from your deck to your hand. Oh, it searches, but nothing very good. I'm putting in C tier because that searches. It does search on sent to the graveyard. My no issues is
because I forgot.
Mecha Phantom Beast O-Line. If sent to the graveyard, special summon a Mecha Phantom Beast token. However, the sent to the graveyard effect is a hard once per turn. It is a good effect. Normally this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, not from the hand or deck to the graveyard. B tier? I'm trying to think, like this card is technically very good. Should I just put it in A tier because it has so many good uses? Like, I guess technically it's only good if you're able to use a whole bunch of other stuff, but so is Goki Pole. I think the context of the card existing make it a pretty decent one, but when it comes to generic usability, it's not very generically usable. Kind of dependent on how many enablers there are. I'll put it in B tier or the other like very dependent cards that are not generic. Goki Pole level, yeah. I don't know about Goki Pole level. I'll put it in B tier level. Do tier limits fit this list? Oh, I guess they do. We have Nail Shaddoll Ariel. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, target up to 3 cards in the graveyards and banish them. B tier. Next up, we have Natura's Sacred Tree. If this card is sent to the graveyard, add any Naturia card from your deck to your hand, not once per turn. This is very good. I don't know if this is S tier good or A tier good. This card was garbage until they printed Mole, until they printed Cricket Mole in the Camilla. before they printed. Actually, there's also one other card that's really good. It's not once per turn. So if you mill 3 of these, you get to add 3 cards. It's super good. The fact that all tier limit names are generic, make them S-chat, just pretend it's there. I forgot about the tier limits because there's basically an archetype that does that. Next up, we have Neo Kaiser Glider. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can make all monsters your opponent control lose 500 attack until the end of this turn. F tier, what the f is this? Next up, we have Night Sword Serpent. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use this effect once per turn. Funny thing is, if this card is detached by a Time Thief or Doer, it will come back. And it's level 4. So basically it comes back through Time Thief or Doer. And it's an Aqua? No, it's Reptile. It was played in some tier limit decks though, because if it's sent through the random mill, it comes back and it can go into a Time Thief or Doer, and then during your opponent's turn, you can detach it in order to bring it back as a level 4. A level 4 for Bahamut. Yeah, and it's a water. Usable, but not usually great. It's pretty good. I'm gonna put it in A tier, because it's very generic. We have Noctovision Dragon. What's this one's graveyard effect? If this card is sent to the graveyard as a link material, you draw 1 card. That's its effect. Banish this card from your graveyard, negate the effect if your opponent cannot target face down cards for the rest of this turn. You use following effects once per turn. If a Dark Dragon is special summoned to your field, except during the damage step, special summon this card from your hand. B or C? This one basically only triggers from the field though. I made a mistake. This isn't supposed to be on this list. Is Dandelion on this list? No, because Dandelion's banned. I'm gonna put it in F tier because it doesn't belong on the list. Where's Bestial Serenir? I forgot about it. Ojama Pajama. If this card is sent to the graveyard, special summon as many of your banished Ojama monsters as possible. Holy moly. You can special summon like 5 monsters with this card. That's amazing. Let's put this in C tier because Ojamas suck. Outstanding Dog Mary. Add 1 Outstanding Dog Moran from your deck to your hand. And if you do, place this card on top of your deck. It does search a card and then puts itself back. That's a very realistic dog. It is kind of a realistic dog. I'm gonna put this one in F tier because who cares about Outstanding Dog Marin? Anti-deck tech out choice. I mean, I guess we'll put it in C tier, whatever. Quatless. Oh, if this one's sent to the graveyard, you get to search out an Evolution Pill card. That's very good because it can bring out Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. B tier. Next up, Trick Clown. If sent to the graveyard, come back, 0 stats, take 1,000 points. Very good card. A tier. Dark Clown. When sent to the graveyard, banish this card from your graveyard, special summon 1 Petin the Dark Clown from your deck. This one misses timing very easily. F tier. Predaplant Bisblips. If this card's sent to the graveyard, add a Predaplant monster from your deck to your hand. This can search out Dragostopalia. No wait, no it can't. Not Dragostopalia. Orpheus Scorpio, that's the one, right? Technically it searches out Orpheus Scorpio, whatever. It's an archetype search. I'll put it in B tier. This card is actually insane. Yeah, it's good, I guess. Another Predaplant one. If this card is sent to the graveyard or added to your extra deck face up because it was used as a fusion material, you can choose monsters on the field up to the number of monsters you control and place 1 Predaplant counter on each one of them. And if you do, any of those monsters that have level 2 or higher become level 1 as a result of having a Predator counter. Does it have to be sent to the graveyard by fusion material to activate the effect? Because either way, the effect's not very good. F tier. Next up, Monkey. If a monster is sent from your opponent's hand or deck to the graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand in face down defense position. If this card is flip face up, you can target up to 2 cards in the field and destroy them. This shouldn't be on the list. F tier. Okay, Psychic Rover. If this card is special summoned, roll a 6-sided die, and if you roll 1 or 6, destroy the 2 cards in the field. If this card is sent to the graveyard, roll a 6-sided die. If you roll a 2, 3, 4, or 5, special summon this card. The player who summoned it cannot special summon from the extra deck while it's face up in the monster zone. So Psychic Rover doesn't have any once per turns on any of its effects. Just an FYI. So if you're lucky, if you keep sending this card to the graveyard, it might be able to keep coming back. That's why it has the effect where you cannot special summon from your extra deck at all while it's in the monster zone. So there's no way to use it. Yeah, it's very hard to actually use this card because you can't use your extra deck with it. Like, technically the effects are pretty decent for a gamble card, but it's still a gamble card and the restriction is definitely harsh enough for it. So let's put this one sadly in F tier. This is like one of the most broken sounding cards, which is properly restricted. Quadrant, the clear-sided. What the hell does this card do? When this card is normal summoned, you can set one continuous trap from your hand or graveyard. It can be activated this turn. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can activate this effect. Face-up trap cards you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects until the end of the next turn. Yeah, floodgate support. I love my floodgates. This is F tier though for its graveyard effect. Windy, special summon a Shaddoll monster from your deck when it's sent to the graveyard. Summons from the deck when sent to the graveyard. That's pretty decent. We'll put it in C tier. Maybe B tier? No, I think C tier is appropriate. Revival Golem. If this card is sent to the graveyard, no, when this card is sent from your deck to the graveyard, special summon it or add it to your hand. Both those effects are very good. And it's generic. A tier. Rock Band, Xeno Guitar. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one rock monster in your graveyard, except this card, add it to your hand, then place one card from your hand on top of your deck. Wow. If this card is banished from the field or graveyard, send one rock monster from your deck to the graveyard. I would almost bump Wendy to B since just better for the Dragons for the graveyard effect. I guess, whatever. I think B is fine. Xeno Guitar, should this be A or B? Chat, I'll let you guys decide. B tier at least. This is at least played in one of in like all Adamancipator decks. B at best. Okay, B tier. Next up, we have Falco. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a Salamangreat spell trap in your graveyard, set that target to the field. Holy crap, that's good. If this card is in your graveyard, you can target a Salamangreat monster you control, except Salamangreat Falco, return that card to your hand, and if you do special summon this card, you can lose 5 points of return. This seems very good. Is this card used in Salamangreat decks? Because I know they love their trap cards being set back to the field. Falco is decent. Yeah, a ton, yes. So B tier? I use one. It sounds like it's B tier material. Scar of the Vendread. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a Vendread spell trap from your deck to your hand. Oh! If a monster on the field is tributed while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish one other zombie monster from your graveyard, special summon this card, and if you do, while it's face up in the monster zone, you cannot special summon monsters except Vendread monsters. You can affect once per turn. Well, it searches Vendreads when it's sent to the graveyard. That's pretty decent. I'm sure this is very useful in Vendread decks. So B tier, Scrap Iron Statue. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one junk monster in your graveyard, special summon defense position. You can affect once per turn. That's lame. I'm gonna put this in C tier. Should I just try climbing with stun decks? I wanna see how much of a menace I can be if I just play a stun deck all the way to the top. I'm gonna be the best climber who's ever existed. I'm gonna be like Celeste climbing that mountain. You're a terrible person. Why, thank you. Next up, we have Shaddoll Beast. If this card's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, draw one card. B tier? No, this is A tier. It's a draw. You draw a card. Have a lovely street. Why, thank you, Callus. I hope you have a wonderful day. S tier? Yeah, I'm debating S tier, honestly. This is either S or A tier. S tier for Winda, A for sure. I think it's A tier. I would put it in S tier if it wasn't such a brick in your hand. That's the only reason I'm not putting it in S tier. Like, this is the worst card ever to draw. Yeah, if only it wasn't level 5. Okie dokie. Next up, we have Shaddoll Core. If this card's sent to the graveyard, add any Shaddoll spell trap from your graveyard to your hand. It searches back your fusions. That's pretty decent. I don't know how decent. I don't think modern Shaddoll decks even play this card anymore. I'm gonna put it in C tier just because it's not bad. Next up, Shaddoll Dragon. Pop a spell trap when it's sent to the graveyard. This is like the only card that pops spell traps when it's sent to the graveyard. Yeah, we'll put it in C tier. Hi, TheDuelLogs. I hope I get caught in the screen cap. No, the Shaddoll Falco. If this card's sent to the graveyard, it special summons itself in defense position. No, wait, it special summons a Shaddoll monster in the graveyard. It doesn't have to be itself. I always forget about that because it usually just special summons itself. C tier, I guess. Oh, it's a tuner? I didn't even notice that. Next up, we have Squamata. If this card's sent to the graveyard, you can send any Shaddoll card from your deck to the graveyard. I'll just put this in C tier next to its other Shaddoll brethrens. Ladybug. If this card is sent to the graveyard, gain 1,000 life points. Guys, this is A tier. This is an A tier card. S tier. Yeah, like actually. Because of time rules. This card has seen so much competitive play. You have no idea. Move it up to S tier? Okay, we'll put it in S tier. This is an S tier card. Gain 1,000 life points when sent to the graveyard. It's a mandatory effect, so the fact that it's a win effect doesn't matter. People actually side. Yeah, people actually play this card for time rules. That card got someone to the finals of YCS? Yeah. Stop. I was joking. Why is that card good? Because of time rules where when they call time, you have until the end of the phase to do things, and then after that phase is over, whoever has the the most life points wins. So if you could just find a way to get this card to the graveyard, you'll gain 1,000 life points and you'll be above your opponent and you'll win. And gaining 1,000 life points usually offsets a lot of other like burn effects or just like other life point gain things. It's the highest amount of life points you can gain from this kind of effect. We do have Laurel over here, which gains 500 life points, but you know, Ladybug is 1,000, that's double as much. Time to start running that in my tier piles in MD. MD doesn't have time rules, so it's useless. Anyways, I think Skullmark Ladybug is one of the most weakest seeming cards out of all these cards, which is technically very meta competitive, specifically because of how the time rules work. Next up, we have Snapdragon. I like this card. When this card is sent to the graveyard, banish one random card from your opponent's hand until the end phase. Like, if you mill this, you can snipe your opponent's hand, but it's only until the end phase. It's kind of hard to use it during your opponent's turn. Funny thing is, in Duel Links, there's this skill which has an effect where just like once per game, you can remove from play all cards that are removed from play. They're just gone from the game forever. So if you were able to get Snapdragon to proc its effect during your first turn, and then use that skill to just get rid of all of the banished cards, it turned Snapdragon's effect into just a normal hand rip. And even in that deck, they didn't play Snapdragon. Just because it wasn't really necessary. They just like did other things with that skill instead. It's so funny that even in a skill that makes this an actual hand rip, it still wasn't considered competitively viable, unfortunately. So I think we have to put this in F tier because like it had its time to shine and it didn't. Stay Sailor Romarin. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can send one level 5 or lower plant monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard. Oh, you can use this to send that level 5 Synchro monster, which special summons Synchro dragons from the graveyard. Yeah, because it sends from the extra deck. This is actually pretty good. I'm gonna put this in B tier. I don't know what the name is off the top of my head, but there's this level 5 Synchro monster, which is a plant, which has the effect where you can banish yourself from the graveyard to special summon a dragon Synchro monster from the graveyard. So like it has an excellent target. It might even have more targets than that, but I just know that one for sure is a good one. She has mismatched stockings. Oh my god, girl. Learn how to match your stockings. When this card is sent to the graveyard, add a level 3 prophecy monster from your deck to your hand. I think this card actually saw some play in old versions of spellbooks, but not a lot. I'm gonna put an F tier. Red Layer. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one super quant monster in your graveyard and special summon it, but it cannot activate its attack this turn. Wow, only in super quants? It does special summon itself from the hand. That's the best part of this card. We are evaluating this based on its sent to the graveyard effects, not from its ability to special summon a super quant monster from the graveyard, which is its sent effect. I'm gonna put it in F tier, even though the card can loop itself. No, it specifically doesn't allow it to use itself. If it could loop itself, that'd be way better. Unfortunately, next up we have Tackle Crusader. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can activate one of two effects, where you can either flip a card of the field face down, or return a face-up spell track the opponent controls to their hand. So Tackle Crusader can either Book of Moon a monster, or I guess I should say Paleozoic Canadia, one of your opponent's monsters, because you can't target your own monsters, because that's what Book of Moon is really good for. Or it can bounce one of your opponent's face-up spell traps, which does include floodgates. So it's a floodgate bouncer that doubles as like interruption for monsters. It has two different effects, and both of the effects aren't very strong, but the fact that you can choose between both of them makes this card... I want to put this in A or S tier. Like, it is very good. Like, there are some versions of like IKEA Labyrinth that will play this card specifically because of that modal just like versatility. I'm thinking F tier. No, this card sees lots of competitive play. People play it in anything that mills sometimes. Yeah, they do. I'm gonna put it in A tier. I don't know about S tier. Anyways, we have tier limits Kashtira. During your main phase, blah, blah, blah. If this card is normal or special, send the top 3 cards of all players out of the graveyard. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. It mills too. Guys, look, a tier card. I don't know why I only have this one in here. I'm just gonna have this represent all the tier limits and put it S tier. How about that? White Stone of Legend. If sent to graveyard, add Blue Eyes White Dragon from deck to hand. This card has been used in FTK decks specifically because it's not once per turn, and it just adds a card from your deck to your hand. And you can also use that card in order to go into other stuff. I don't know, C or B tier. Yeah, it is mandatory. I'm gonna put this in C tier. It's not that good. It has been useful in the past, but they don't use it anymore. Next up, we have D-holes. If this card is sent from your hand or deck to the graveyard, target one Tindingle monster in your graveyard except Tindingle D-hole, special summon in face down defense position. You can only use this effect once per turn. A Tindingle link monster that uses card's material can make 3 attacks during each battle phase. Damn. Well, it only summons other Tindingles. I'm gonna put it next to the other like very archetype specific cards. The Toy Vendor. So Toy Vendor is a soft once per turn field effect that doesn't do anything very good, but it has a no once per turn sent to the graveyard effect to add an Edge Imp Sabers or a Fluffle monster from your deck to your hand. Basically, the entire Fluffle deck revolves around sending this card to the graveyard. I'm gonna put in B tier. Board read on A tier because like the entire archetype does revolve around it, but it's just a search, and I have like all the other searches in B tier. We have Unchained Soul Shavarva. What? If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can set one Unchained spell trap directly from your deck. Oh, that's pretty good. It's a new card? Yeah, I'll put it in C tier because I don't like Unchained. We have Scattershot. Scattershot has the effect that if it's sent to the graveyard, inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent. However, if it's sent to the graveyard by the effect of a Blaze Accelerator card, you can send 2 other copies of it from your hand or deck to the graveyard to destroy all monsters your opponent controls. This card is also used for time rules as well, because it can be used in the same way as Skullmark Ladybug in order to inflict damage to your opponent. I'm putting B tier. It's not used as much as Skullmark Ladybug though. And next up, oh my god, we have the Progenitor of this list. This is the card you think of when you think of send cards from your deck to the graveyard in order to gain effects. In fact, this should be on the thumbnail. It should be Wolf the Lightsworn Beast. If it's sent from your deck to the graveyard, special summon it. It's so simple. It's just like free advantage. B for Beast, so C. I was thinking about putting in B tier. B for Brick. Yeah, because it can't be normal summon. B for Brick. Okay, and that's the list. The effect is A. Yeah, it is. But if I put it in A, then I have to put the level 4 tuner in A as well, and it's already in B, so I'm just gonna have it here with it in B tier. Look, they can hang out next to each other. Okie dokie, and this is the list. I hope you guys enjoyed. Send cards from deck to graveyard. Was there any cards I may have missed, my chat? No? I got everything? Oh my goodness gracious, I'm so glad that I got everything. Oh, the Ishizus? Well, we can put the Ishizu's Agido and Ishizo's Kelbeck over in S tier, where they would probably belong. Wolf is technically better than Felis because he can be triggered from non-monster effects. Felis can even be summoned from Solar Recharge or summon his own archetype. That's true. You think I should put Wolf in A tier? I don't know, it's still a brick. I think Revival Golem fulfills the same niche, is better, and so does Night Serpent. A? No, it's B tier. I am the one here who is a G of someone of humble intelligence.